I opened my eyes and was nearly blinded by the chandelier hanging from the ceiling, a monstrosity of crystal that seemed bigger than my last apartment. It refracted the light into 1,000 brilliant shards, about 1,000,000 times brighter than the 15-watt bulb that had illuminated my previous life. Who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? The holy trinity of existential dread circled my brain. Then, a lifetime of memories that weren't mine crashed into my head like an oversized zip file being forced onto a corrupted hard drive. My name had been Caleb Stone, a corporate drone burned out from the hustle culture, grinding myself into dust to pay off student loans and a mortgage I'd never conquer in this lifetime. Now, my name was also Caleb Stone, but this Caleb was the sole heir to Harrison Stone, one of the wealthiest men in the country. A textbook case of a spoiled brat who had never worked a day in his life. To put it simply, I'd been body swapped. I was now the very person I'd spent my entire last life wanting to be, and also the person I despised the most. I felt from my heart. It was hammering against my ribs like a sewing machine on overdrive. This wasn't a dream. I climbed out of a bed that could comfortably sleep 5 of me, my bare feet sinking into a plush carpet that felt impossibly soft. I stumbled into the attached bathroom. The face staring back from the mirror was offensively handsome. Strong jaw, sharp eyes, a nose that looked like it had been sculpted by a Renaissance master, and skin without a single flaw. Yeah, he was as handsome as all you fine people reading this. But the face wasn't mine. I tried to make a sad face in the mirror, but the man looking back just smirked, a muscle memory of effortless arrogance. I tried to look angry, and he just arched an eyebrow, a picture-perfect look of "you have my attention for now." I was screwed. This body's instincts were more stubborn than my soul. "Sir, are you awake?" A man in a perfectly tailored suit, with gray hair combed back immaculately, appeared at the door. It was Arthur, the house manager. In his hands, he held a bespoke suit that probably cost more than my last car. "You have a meeting with Mr. Vance at Ether this afternoon. I've taken the liberty of laying out your clothes." My mind's new memory bank flashed a warning. The old Caleb was a classic case of all style and no substance. Despite his family's wealth, he was always trying to one-up his so-called friends, running up astronomical tabs, and then getting an earful from his father, my new father, Harrison Stone. Go to an exclusive club? Spend a fortune. Are you kidding me? In my last life, I considered a bottle of Fiji water a reckless splurge. I clear my throat, trying to sound natural. Cancel it. Tell him something came up. Arthur paused, a flicker of surprise in his professional gaze, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Of course, sir. And for breakfast? Shall I have the chef prepare the A5 Wagyu with truffle scrambled eggs, or are you in the mood for the Alaskan king crab?" I swallowed hard. A single one of those meals sounded like it would cost my entire yearly food budget for my old life. The broke millennial DNA in me was screaming in protest. "Actually," I asked cautiously, "do you have any instant ramen? Top ramen, chicken flavor, and maybe a hard-boiled egg." For the first time, Arthur's stoic expression cracked. He stared at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. His eyes were a cocktail of confusion, bewilderment, and, was that a hint of pride? He probably thought that after his father froze his credit cards for 2 weeks, the prodigal son had finally seen the light, decided to learn the value of $1. He had no idea the software had been completely replaced. He had no idea that for me, eating ramen wasn't a lesson in humility. It was the simplest, purest form of happiness in a life defined by exhaustion. "I will see to it at once, sir," Arthur said with a slight bow before retreating. I collapsed onto a sofa, letting out a long breath. Staring around this bedroom, which was larger than my entire old house, I felt zero excitement, only a deep, creeping panic. What was I going to do? Spend the rest of my life as a trust fund kid everyone secretly hated? Thinking up new ways to burn through cash every day? No, that was a fate worse than death. I had to get back. But how? In the stories, what was the formula? Fulfill the original owner's dying wish? See the plot through to the end? The original Caleb's wishes seemed to be pissing off his father and getting the attention of the campus it girl, Jessica Vance. As for a plot, what kind of plot does a spoiled rich kid have? Drink, party, spend, repeat. A wild, brilliant idea sparked in my mind. What if I spent all the family's money? A bankrupt trust fund kid is basically just a regular person, right? Then I could get a real job, ride the subway, clip coupons, and live the familiar, comfortable life I knew. Yes, that's it. I would become the greatest, most efficient money waster in history. The thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. This was way more exciting than the 9-to-5 grind. Step 1. Survey the battlefield. I had Arthur bring me all my bank cards, credit cards, and asset statements. When he lined up the row of black cards and gold cards, followed by account balances with a truly offensive number of zeros, I felt my breath catch. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. I tried to count, gave up. It was just a lot. A stupid amount of money. More money than I could have earned if I'd been working since the dawn of time. Sir, Mr. Vance is on the line again. Arthur chimed in. He says Ether has a new selection of entertainment and insists you come to give your expert opinion. Leo Vance. My new memory identified him as the chief sycophant, the guy who was best at kissing my ass and spending my money. He was always encouraging me to order the most expensive bottle, the most exclusive service, all to uphold my reputation before sliding the bill my way. The old Caleb, desperate for validation, always paid. Perfect. My first target. All right, let's go, I said, trying to sound bored as I picked up the most menacing-looking black card. Ether was exactly as obnoxious as I'd imagined. A gleaming lobby, hostesses who looked like supermodels, every detail screaming that this was a place you came to hemorrhage money. Leo was waiting in a private suite, surrounded by a flashy group of men and women who swarmed me the second I walked in. Caleb, finally, we've been waiting forever. Damn, Caleb, looking sharp. That watch has to be 7 figures, right? I glanced down at the Patek Philippe on my wrist. It felt heavy, clunky. 7 figures? I was wearing a down payment for a mansion on my arm. I was afraid to even walk too fast. I sat down, channeling the old Caleb's I own the world energy. Leo slid over, handed me a wine list with a slimy smile. So, Caleb, what's the move tonight? An 82 Lafite or a Romani Conti? I scanned the list. Every price was a direct assault on my soul. Whatever, I mumbled. To waste money properly, one had to appear nonchalant. Taking that as his cue, Leo's eyes lit up. He snapped his fingers at the server. Bring us one of everything on your reserve list. The server practically glowed. Soon, bottles I'd only ever seen in issues of Forbes were lined up on the table. Leo poured me a glass himself, watching me with rapt attention. I swirled the glass, sniffed it like I'd seen in movies. Well, it's a good stuff, right? Leo asked eagerly. I frowned. In my old operating system, wine came in 2 categories, red and white. Best served from a box. This was pretentious, but I couldn't let on. I had to play the part. I took a moment, then spoke slowly. The tannins are still a bit aggressive. Too much oak. It's overpowering the fruit. The vintage is right, but it hasn't been allowed to breathe long enough. A pity. I'd memorized those lines years ago to deal with a client who thought he was a wine connoisseur. I never thought they'd actually come in handy. The suite went silent. Everyone stared at me with a new, shocking level of respect. Leo's jaw was on the floor. C.A. Caleb, since when do you know all that? My heart skipped a beat. Crap, I'd overdone it. The old Caleb was a Philistine who drank $1,000 wine like it was Gatorade. He wouldn't know a tannin from a tan line. I had to course correct. I set the glass down and waved a dismissive hand. Who cares? It's just a drink. Give me a Coke. With ice. Stunned silence again. Leo looked like he was trying to solve a complex math problem in his head. Mixing Romani Conti with Coca-Cola? That wasn't just tacky. It was sacrilege. But who was I? I was Caleb Stone, professional money waster. This was my mission. What? They don't have Coke here. I sneered at him. No. Yes. Right away. Leo scrambled to get a server. For the next hour, under the petrified gazes of everyone in the room, I leisurely mixed 6-figure wines with $3 sodas, sipping them one by one. The others exchanged confused glances, too scared to laugh. They probably thought my father's scolding had finally broken my brain. Only one person in the suite seemed unfazed. A middle-aged man in the corner, dressed in a simple, traditional-style jacket that looked completely out of place, watched me with an amused expression. Leo leaned in, whispering nervously. Caleb, that's Marcus Thorne from Apex Holdings. Big player. Try not to piss him off. Marcus Thorne? Apex Holdings. My mind dredged up the name. One of the city's other corporate giants. A direct competitor to my family's company. What was he doing here? Thorne picked up his glass and walked over to me. Mr. Stone, an interesting palate you have. It gets the job done, I said, trying to maintain my aloof persona. I overheard your analysis of the wine earlier. Quite astute, and yet you choose to enjoy it in such a unique fashion. He gestured to my wine and coke concoction. Leo and his crew held their breath, terrified I was about to start an international incident. My own heart was pounding, but I couldn't back down. This was my chance. If I offended him, maybe he'd start a corporate war and accelerate my family's bankruptcy. Emboldened, I swirled my glass, watching the dark red liquid fizz. Good things are meant to be savored, I said lightly. But sometimes the value of a drink isn't in the bottle. It's about who you're with and the mood you're in. Oh, Thorne's interest deepened. And what mood is that exactly? I leaned back, striking a pose of profound, philosophical ennui. It's all just numbers on a balance sheet. Life is short. You have to enjoy it. If I think Coke tastes good, then to me, it's more valuable than a $100,000 bottle of wine. The words were half truth, half garbage. The first part was how I genuinely felt. The second was pure, unadulterated nonsense. But when I finished, the room was dead quiet. Leo's posse looked completely stunned. As for Marcus Thorne, the smile on his face slowly faded, replaced by a look of deep, calculating appraisal. And respect? He stared at me for a long moment, then burst out laughing. Well said. Just numbers on a balance sheet. Harrison Stone is a lucky man to have a son like you. He clapped me on the shoulder. Young man, I like your style. If you ever need anything, you call me. He turned to leave, stopping only to tell the manager, put this suite's entire bill on my tab. Me? Wait, that's not how the script was supposed to go. I was supposed to offend him. He was supposed to declare war on Stone Industries. Why was he buying me drinks? My first step toward financial ruin had somehow turned into a networking success. As Leo and the others stared at me with a newfound sense of awe, I nearly choked on my Coke and wine cocktail. This world was insane. My master plan to go broke was off to a terrible start. I decided to change tactics. If wasting money in public was going to be misinterpreted, I'd have to do it at home. I had the staff buy one of every new luxury good on the market, designer clothes, high-tech gadgets, collector's items, and pile them in the living room. Then, my performance art began. I used a $10,000 Givenchy sweater as a dust rag. I propped up a wobbly table leg with a brand new iPhone. I took apart a pair of limited edition Jordans to see how the air cushioning worked. I expected the staff to be horrified, to run to my father and tell him his son had finally lost his mind. But they didn't. They just watched me with a look that said, the ways of the rich are a mystery, but we are deeply impressed. Arthur, the butler, even smiled approvingly as I used a bottle of ridiculously expensive cologne as air freshener. It's wonderful to see you found a hobby, sir, he said. Me? A hobby? My hobby is ruining you all. Can't you see that? The feeling of being so profoundly misunderstood was maddening. Just as I was contemplating what to destroy next, a figure walked in from the gardens. It was a young woman, dressed in simple gray work clothes and a wide-brimmed hat, carrying a pair of large shears. She had fair skin and delicate features, but her expression was cold, her eyes like chips of ice. She walked straight into the living room, her brow furrowing at the mountain of expensive junk. Excuse me, I need to water this orchid, she said to me, her voice as cool as her gaze. It took me a second to place her. Oh, right, the new horticulturalist. My memory file on the old Caleb told me he barely acknowledged the staff, so I just silently moved out of her way. She knelt before a plant that looked absurdly elegant and began expertly checking the soil and trimming dead leaves. With nothing better to do, I crouched nearby to watch. That flower, it's expensive, right? I asked, trying to make conversation. She shot me a glance and said nothing. I'm guessing, what, 5 figures? I pressed. Her hands paused. She finally spoke. It's a ghost orchid. Last one at auction sold for $800,000. Me? Cough, cough. 800 grand? For a plant? My worldview shattered a little more. I stared at the orchid, suddenly seeing dollar signs on every petal. So, does it need to be watered every day? I asked nervously afraid I might kill it just by breathing too hard. She finally gave me her full attention, her eyes dripping with undisguised contempt. Do you think it's a weed from the side of the road? An orchid of this caliber requires precise humidity, temperature, and light. The water has to be specially treated. Too much or too little will kill it. Someone like you, who probably can't even identify a rose, should stay as far away from it as possible. She then picked up a mister and delicately sprayed the air around the orchid, never touching the roots. Her verbal assault left me speechless. But I wasn't angry. In fact, I felt a strange sense of kinship. Finally, someone who looked at me with the appropriate level of disdain for a wasteful, trust fund baby. I'd found my people. What's your name? I asked, my voice full of excitement. She ignored me, packed up her tools, and turned to leave. Hey, I'm talking to you. I called after her. She walked out without a backward glance. Sir, Arthur materialized behind me. That is the new part-time horticulturalist, Ava Reed. She's a university student. Her personality is a bit reserved. Ava Reed. I committed the name to memory. This woman was going to be a crucial observer and validator of my grand plan for self-destruction. She had to witness my descent into financial oblivion firsthand. From that day on, my destructive acts had a dedicated audience of one. Ava came 3 times a week, and I always made sure to escalate my antics whenever she was around. When she was pruning the prize-winning roses, I would be nearby, using the newest Dyson vacuum to clean the carpet and accidentally suck up a pinch of the priceless imported orchid soil. Ava's face would visibly darken. When she was watering the hydrangeas, I'd be behind her, accidentally using a bottle of 82 Lafite to water a potted ficus. Ava's I would twitch. When she was training the ivy covering an entire wall, I'd be in the pool, tossing dozens of brand new waterproof smartphones into the deep end to test their durability. Finally, she snapped. She threw down her shears, marched up to me, and fixed me with her icy stare. Is there something wrong with you? My heart soared. Yes, this is the look. Despise me. Scorn me. You have money, that's your business. But could you please stop disrespecting the labor of others? Her voice was quiet but sharp. These plants are living things. Your father bought them, and we care for them. They don't exist for you to destroy for your amusement. They're my family's things. I could do whatever I want with them. I shot back, doing my best impression of the arrogant jerk I was supposed to be. Yes, it's your freedom, Ava said, her eyes filled with disgust and disappointment. But I also have the freedom to choose my work environment. Mr. Stone, I quit. She turned on her heel and walked away without a moment's hesitation. I was stunned. Wait, that's not in the script. You're supposed to lecture me, then despise me even more, and then glare at me judgmentally every time I waste money. You're my one-woman hype crew for failure. How can you just quit? My only ally was leaving. This couldn't happen. I ran after her. Hey, Ava, wait. She walked faster. In a moment of sheer panic, I yelled, If you leave, I'll rip out every single one of your stupid flowers. She stopped dead in her tracks. She spun around, her eyes blazing. You wouldn't dare. Her ferocity made me flinch. Okay, bad move. Seeing the murderous look on her face, my bravado evaporated. I didn't mean it like that. I stammered. I just meant, if you leave, who's going to take care of them? Ava gave a humorless laugh. I'm sure your father can find a horticulturalist far more qualified than I am. No, he can't. I blurted out. I want you. The words hung in the air, and I immediately regretted them. Why did that sound like a line from a bad romance novel? Sure enough, Ava's expression turned even colder. Mr. Stone, please have some self-respect. No, I mean, your skills are great. I was sweating now. The plants are used to you. If someone new comes, they'll get transplant shock. Yeah, that's it. She looked at me like I was the dumbest person on the planet. I could feel my IQ dropping with every word. The brain of a corporate drone was no match for the role of a spoiled heir. I took a deep breath and pulled out my trump card. Money? I'll double your salary, I said. Ava didn't move. Triple it. Her eyes flickered, but she stayed silent. 5 times. I grit my teeth. And you're renting a place, right? Move in. You can have any of the guest suites on the West Wing. Room and board, all included. That finally got a reaction. She studied me. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion. What do you really want? What could I say? I want you to stay and watch me fail spectacularly. I just think you have a great work ethic. I want to keep good talent on the team. I cobbled the pathetic excuse together. Ava was quiet, clearly weighing her options. I knew the offer was a lifeline for a college student. After a long moment, she spoke. I can stay, and I can move in, but I have 3 conditions. 300, whatever you want. I nodded eagerly. First, my work is limited to the gardens and indoor plants. I'm not involved in anything else. Done. Second, you are not to destroy things in front of me again, especially not the plants. I'll try. Third, she paused, her voice firm. You will stay the hell away from me. Deal. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, feeling like I just closed a billion-dollar deal. The method was messy, but at least I'd managed to keep my lead audience member. Ava moved in the next day with a single suitcase. As I watched her walk past me, treating me like I was carrying a contagious disease, I felt a small, secret thrill. Just you wait, Ava. One day, you'll have a front row seat to watch me burn this golden cage to the ground. With Ava as my in-house supervisor, my plan had to evolve from physical destruction to capital mismanagement. In short, investments. Terrible, guaranteed to fail investments. A golden opportunity soon presented itself. The city was hosting its annual charity gala, and my father, Harrison Stone, was a guest of honor. He had business overseas, so the duty of representing the family fell to me. You're the face of the family tonight, Caleb. Don't cause any trouble, but don't look cheap, either, he instructed me before he left. I promised I'd behave, but inside I was ecstatic. A charity auction was just a place for rich people to pay for good PR. It was the perfect stage for my glorious failure. That night, I showed up in a ridiculously flashy white suit, driving the most ostentatious Lamborghini in the garage. The gala was a sea of designer gowns and 4 smiles. I felt completely out of place, like a monkey in a ballroom. The auction began. The first few items were paintings and antique jewelry, sparking fierce bidding wars. I watched unimpressed. Those things might appreciate in value, which went against my core principles. Then, the final item was revealed. Ladies and gentlemen, our last item tonight is a special one, the auctioneer said with a grin. A 500-acre parcel of land in the old Westbridge industrial corridor, generously offered by the city. We'll start the bidding at $1 million. A murmur went through the crowd. Westbridge? Isn't that a wasteland? I heard the soil is contaminated from the old chemical plants. $1 million? You'd have to pay me to take that land. Is the city that desperate for cash? Who would possibly buy that? Hearing the whispers, my eyes lit up. Wasteland. Polluted. Unwanted. This was it. The perfect money pit. I had to have it. The auctioneer stood awkwardly on stage as the seconds ticked by without a single bid. 1 million going once. 1 million going twice. Anyone at all? 2 million. The voice was mine, calm and clear. Every head in the room swiveled in my direction. I was met with a wave of shock, confusion, and pity. The look you give a village idiot. I savored it. The auctioneer, after a moment of disbelief, was overjoyed. Mr. Stone bids 2 million. Do I hear 2.5? Silence. Everyone was convinced I had lost my mind. Leo Vance appeared out of nowhere, sweating profusely. Caleb, what are you doing? That land is a black hole. It'll be worthless. You wouldn't understand, I said, giving him a look of profound mystery. He backed off, confused. Seeing no other bidders, the auctioneer slammed the gavel down. Sold. For $2 million to Mr. Caleb Stone, a tremendous contribution to our city's charitable fund and future development. A sparse, sympathetic round of applause followed. I was officially the biggest joke of the night. The next day, the headline in the business section read, Stone airdrops $2 million on toxic Westbridge wasteland. The online comments were brutal. Proof that money can't buy brains. At this rate, Stone Industries will be bankrupt in a decade. Thoughts and prayers for Harrison Stone. I read the comments, grinning from ear to ear. It was working beautifully. My father called from Europe, his roar nearly shattering my eardrum. Caleb, have you gone completely insane? 2 million. You would have been better off setting it on fire. How did I raise such a reckless moron? Dad, just hear me out, I said, feigning sincerity. I was answering the city's call, supporting local development. Who knows? Maybe it'll be worth something someday. Worth something my ass. I'm telling you right now. That $2 million is coming out of your annual trust distribution. Don't expect a dime more. He slammed the phone down. I did a celebratory roll on my bed. I'd wasted $2 million and cut off a future revenue stream. It was a win-win. Humming a little tune, I went downstairs for breakfast, only to find Ava in the living room, watching the news. My glorious achievement from the gala was the top story. She stood with her arms crossed, a smirk of pure disdain on her face as she watched the report. Such foresight, Mr. Stone, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. In her eyes, I had just added another crime to my long list of offenses. Of course, I puffed out my chest proudly. It's called strategic investment. Is that what it's called? She turned off the TV and looked down at me. All I see is a spoiled man-child, playing a childish game with his parents' money. $2 million. Do you have any idea how many scholarships that could have funded? How many medical bills that could have paid? Her words felt like daggers. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out. She was right. In my old life, $2 million was an unimaginable fortune. I never thought I'd be in a position to just throw it away. Even if my goal was to get back to my own world, the act itself was obscene, especially to someone like Ava, who was probably fighting to pay her own tuition. I say the spoiled rich kid act. Caleb, she cut me off, using my first name for the first time. You're not just wasting money. You're wasting your father's trust and spitting on the dignity of everyone who actually has to work for a living. Without another glance, she turned and walked back out to the garden. I stood alone in a massive living room, and for the first time, a sliver of doubt crept into my master plan. Maybe I really was the bad guy here. I spent 2 days moping about the land deal, not because of Ava's words, but because my father was true to his word. All my cards were frozen. He'd put me on an allowance, $5,000 a month. $5,000. To the old Caleb, this would have been a death sentence. But to me, a guy who used to live on $2,000 a month, it was more than enough. I was actually thrilled. This was just another step toward the normal life I craved. Just as I was about to head to the corner store to buy ramen in bulk, a news alert hit my phone that knocked the wind out of me. The mayor was holding a press conference. A major announcement. The city was partnering with tech giants to build a new high-tech innovation campus. And the new city hall, the heart of a massive urban renewal project, would be relocated. The location for all of this? The Westbridge Industrial Corridor. Boom! The news hit the city like a bomb. That polluted, forgotten patch of dirt was, overnight, the most valuable real estate in the state. And I, the idiot who'd paid $2 million for 500 acres of it, was suddenly being hailed as an investment oracle, a visionary with an almost supernatural foresight. I stare at my phone, at the flood of new comments completely reversing course. OMG, Caleb Stone is a legend. This was 4D chess all along. We were playing checkers while he was playing multi-dimensional space-time Go. The man's a genius. Where are all the haters now? Apologize. I was wrong. I shouldn't have used my mortal brain to judge the maneuverings of a god. My father called again. His voice was completely different, trembling with a joy he could barely contain. Son, you did it. Ha ha ha. That's my boy. You've done the family a great service. He breathlessly explained that, after the announcement, the value of my land had multiplied by more than 100-fold. A conservative estimate put its worth at over $200 million. $2 million had turned into $200 million. The world went dark around the edges. I nearly fainted. I came here to go broke. How did I end up becoming the family hero? This was the exact opposite of my plan. I slumped onto the sofa, feeling like the universe was personally mocking me. Just then, Ava walked in from the garden. She'd clearly seen the news. Her expression was a complex mix of shock, disbelief, and something else I couldn't decipher. I take back what I said before, she said quietly, stopping in front of me. I was small-minded. I screamed internally. No, you were right. I'm a moron who was trying to fail. Please continue to look down on me. But on the outside, I just maintained a cool, mysterious facade. It was a calculated risk, I said calmly. Ava watched me, her gaze more intense than ever. You knew, didn't you? You had inside information. Could I tell her I was just a blind squirrel who found a nuke? No, I had to keep up the act. I said nothing, simply picking up a teacup and blowing gently on the steam. To Ava, my silence was confirmation. The way she looked at me changed completely. The disdain was gone, replaced by the look you give a strange, unknowable creature. A monster who could somehow get his hands on classified city planning documents and execute a world-class investment under the guise of reckless stupidity. My persona was spiraling out of my control, morphing from spoiled brat to mysterious genius playing dumb. This was so much more exhausting than just being rich. For the next few days, our house was like Grand Central Station. A parade of people I knew and didn't know came to visit, all with their own agendas. They wanted to partner on developing the land. They wanted stock tips. They wanted to introduce me to their daughters and nieces. It was a nightmare. I hid in my room, refusing to see anyone. The only thing that kept me grounded was watching Ava. She, in turn, seemed to have developed a keen scientific interest in me. She was no longer cold, but she wasn't friendly either. She just did her work, occasionally glancing at me like she was studying a rare and perplexing animal. If I was in the living room, secretly making a bowl of instant ramen, she'd pretend to be passing through, then just stand there for a moment, her eyes filled with the question, why would a man worth hundreds of millions be eating this? If I was in the garden in a cheap t-shirt and shorts, helping her weed a flower bed, she'd shoo me away from her babies while simultaneously trying to analyze the fabric of my shirt, as if my choice of cheap clothing was another piece of complex puzzle. Being a lab, rat was getting old. I had to do something to shatter this illusion and prove to her, once and for all, that I was just a good-for-nothing idiot. I found out about Ava's troubles by accident. I couldn't sleep one night and went to the kitchen for a snack. As I passed her room, I heard the sound of quiet, muffled sobs. I'm not one to eavesdrop, but the raw despair in that sound stopped me in my tracks. I heard her on the phone. Mom, don't worry, I'll figure something out. How much more do we need for the surgery? 300,000. Okay, I get it. I'll find a way. You just take care of Jake. After she hung up, there was a long silence, followed by even more heart-wrenching crying. I stood outside her door, my heart aching for her. Jake was her younger brother. 300,000 was for his surgery. This girl, who seemed so tough and prickly, was carrying such a heavy burden. I remembered what she'd said to me at the gala. Do you have any idea how many medical bills that could have paid? It wasn't a platitude. It was her reality. In that moment, an overwhelming urge washed over me. I wanted to help her, not for any other reason than to ease the burden on this fiercely independent young woman. But how? Just hand her a check for 300,000? With her pride, she'd never accept it. She'd see it as charity, as an insult. I lay awake all night, turning it over in my mind. The next morning, sporting 2 dark circles under my eyes, I found her pruning roses. I need your help with something, I said, trying to sound as casual as possible. She looked up, a hint of caution in her eyes. What is it? The land, I said. I'm starting a company to develop it. But I don't know the first thing about any of this. I pointed to the huge parcel on a site map. I want to turn it into an ecological park. But as you know, it's a former industrial site. Soil remediation is the biggest challenge. I hear you're studying environmental horticulture. This is your expertise. Her eyes lit up for a second before the light faded. What do you want from me? I want to hire you. I laid out my plan. As the project's lead technical director, you'll be in charge of designing and building the entire park's ecosystem, and I'll pay you a director's salary. On top of that, I'll give you 10% of the company's shares as a technical partner. I watched her, my heart pounding. It was the best, most respectful way I could think of to help her, to wrap the money in the dignity of a career. Ava was speechless. She just stared at me, trying to see if it was a joke, if there was some hidden catch. But my expression was the most sincere it had been since I'd woken up in this world. Why me? She finally asked, her voice a little hoarse. Because you're a professional, I answered quickly, and because you yelled at me. I figure anyone who has the guts to yell at their boss isn't going to cut corners on the job. The reason sounded flimsy even to my own ears, but Ava seemed to buy it. She was silent for a long, long time. So long I thought she was going to refuse. I don't have any management experience, she said at last. Experience can be learned. Your technical skill is what matters, I said. I'll get you a professional administrative team. You just focus on the science. She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. I'll need an advance on my salary. Of course, I nodded. How much? $300,000. Done. I agreed without hesitation. I'll have accounting wire it to you tomorrow. I thought that was it, but I had underestimated her pride. No, she shook her head. I'm not taking your money for free. I'll use my company shares as collateral for the $300,000. Once the project is profitable, I'll pay you back with interest. And if the project fails, she bit her lip. I'll work for you for the rest of my life to pay it off. I looked into her stubborn, determined eyes and almost smiled. Even now, she was focused on her pride, but I had to respect it. Okay, I nodded. We'll do it your way. It's a pleasure doing business with you, Director Reed. Pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Stone. It was the first time she hadn't called me by my last name alone. The sun felt warm on my face. Watching Ava walk back into the rose garden for the first time, I thought that maybe having all this money wasn't so bad after all. At the very least, it could give a girl who was at the end of her rope a reason to hope again. The company was formed faster than I expected. My father was fully supportive of my ecological park idea. To him, this was me finally moving from speculation to real industry, the return of the prodigal son. He not only gave me a massive amount of startup capital, but also assigned me one of his top executive teams to assist. I named the company Greenfield Hope. It was a little cheesy, but it fit. Ava officially became Director Reed. She was a different person. She traded her work clothes for sharp business attire and spent her days on-site or in the lab, leading her team, running soil tests, designing remediation plans. She was a whirlwind of activity. The icy wall she kept around herself was replaced by an intense, fiery passion. And I, the CEO on paper, became the laziest person in the company. My daily job consisted of drinking tea in my office, reading the news, and occasionally listening to Ava's progress reports. Mr. Stone, the analysis for Zone 1 is back. The heavy metal contamination is worse than we thought. We'll need to revise the initial remediation budget. Mr. Stone, we spoke with Professor Albright at the university. He suggested we try phytoremediation, using hyperaccumulator plants to absorb the pollutants. She was always deadly serious during our meetings, all business. But I could see a light in her eyes, a passion for her work, and a hope for the future that was impossible to fake. And I was happy to let her run the show. I was finally living the normal life I dreamed of, albeit within a multi-hundred-million-dollar project. I clocked in and out on time, ate the $15 catered lunch from the cafeteria, and was out the door by 5 p.m. sharp. The employees all looked at me with a sort of reverence. To them, their young, enigmatic boss was a master of delegation, a true leader who trusted his team and focused only on the big picture. They had concocted an entire narrative in their heads. The mysterious tycoon who saw genius in a humble student and elevated her to greatness. Ava and I were the stars of our own corporate fairy tale. I found it hilarious. I was just trying to do as little work as possible. Only Ava seemed to see me differently. She still couldn't quite figure me out. She refused to believe I was just a hands-off boss. She was convinced I was playing some other, deeper game. One day, she brought a financial report to my office for signature. Mr. Stone, this is the first quarter budget proposal. I glanced at the total at the bottom, didn't even look at the line items, and scrawl my name. Looks good. Proceed. Ava hesitated. Is something wrong? I asked. No, it's just, you don't seem very concerned with the specifics of the spending. You hire good people, and you trust them, I said, parroting a line I'd heard my father use 1,000,000 times. I put you in charge of this project because I trust your professional judgment. I only care about the results. She went silent again, then left with the signed document. But just before she walked out the door, I saw her glance back at me. The look in her eyes wasn't confusion anymore. It was something else, something I couldn't quite place. Was it admiration? A shiver went down my spine. Damn it, my persona had leveled up again without my permission. Peaceful days never last. One afternoon, a group of unwelcome visitors showed up at the office. The leader was a slick-haired guy in a gaudy Versace shirt, a gold chain thick enough to moor a small boat around his neck. I recognized him, Ryan Vance, son of another real estate mogul in the city, and the brother of Jessica Vance, the it girl the old Caleb had been obsessed with. He was a notorious bully who threw his family's money around. Well, if it isn't Caleb Stone. Heard you gave up the good life to become a farmer. Ryan sneered as he swaggered in. His goons laughed behind him. Everyone in the office froze, watching. I frowned and stood up from my desk. Can I help you? Just came to see an old friend, he said, plopping himself down on the edge of my desk. I heard you're turning this gold mine of a property into some kind of park. Are you insane? Do you have any idea how much money you could make building luxury condos here? That's my business, not yours, I said flatly. How is it not my business? He leaned in closer. My sister, Jessica. You know, she's always been impressed by guys with business sense. What is she going to think when she hears you're planting flowers instead of making billions? I almost laughed. Jessica again. The old Caleb had done countless stupid things for her, while she kept him on a string, using him as an ATM and a backup plan. I don't care what she thinks, I said. Ryan's face darkened. Don't be an idiot, Caleb. I'm here to offer you a lifeline. He slapped a folder down on my desk. This is a partnership proposal from my company. You give us the land to develop, and we guarantee you'll make 10 times what you would plant in grass. You won't have to lift a finger. And I could even put in a good word for you with Jessica. Not interested, I cut him off. You. His face turned red. He clearly wasn't used to being rejected, especially by the guy who used to follow his sister around like a puppy. Just then, Ava came in. Mr. Stone, there's an issue on site. She stopped short when she saw Ryan, her brow furrowing. Ryan's gaze immediately locked onto Ava. He let out a low whistle, his eyes raking over her in a way that made my skin crawl. Well, hello. Hiding a little secret here. Caleb? Who's the new girl? My blood ran cold. She is the technical director of my company, I said, my voice dangerously low. Director? Ryan chuckled sleazily. What kind of directing does she do? From her knees? His friends roared with laughter. The color drained from Ava's face. Her hands clenched into fists, her body trembling with rage. A fire ignited in my chest. They could mock me, they could insult me, but they were not going to humiliate a young woman who was working harder than any of them ever had in their lives. Get out. My voice wasn't loud, but the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Ryan's laughter died in his throat. What did you say? I looked up, meeting his gaze. I said, take your trash with you, and get the hell out of my office. You son of a bitch, you think you could talk to me like that? Ryan exploded, kicking over a chair. Who the hell do you think you are? You're just a lucky idiot who stumbled into a good deal. Without your dad, you're nothing. He pointed a finger at Ava. And you, don't act so high and mighty. You're just another piece of meat. I could have you right here, right now. He lunged for her. Ava stumbled backward in fear. In that instant, something snapped, a blur of motion, and I was between them. I caught Ryan's wrist in my hand. I don't know where the strength came from, only that a white-hot rage was coursing through me. I squeezed. Ryan let out a howl of pain. Ack, let go. You psycho, let go of my hand. Apologize, I said, my voice ice. Apologize to my ass. I squeezed harder. There was a sickening crack. Ryan's scream turned into a pathetic, gurgling sob. His friends were frozen in fear, not daring to move. The office was dead silent. My employees stared, wide-eyed, at their normally placid, hands-off boss, who now looked like he was ready to commit murder. I'll say it one more time, I said, staring into Ryan's tear-streaked face. Apologize. To her. I'm sorry. He whimpered. I'm sorry. Please. I was wrong. I released him. He collapsed to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. Now get out. He and his friends scrambled out of the office as if the hounds of hell were after them. The silence that followed was absolute. I turned to Ava. She was staring at me with an expression I had never seen before, a mix of shock, fear, and something else. Something that looked like tears welling in her eyes. Are you okay? I asked, my own voice shaking slightly. The adrenaline was fading. Ava didn't speak. She just looked at me, and then, slowly, she nodded. I let out a breath and leaned against my desk, my legs suddenly feeling weak. Pretending to be a badass was exhausting. I didn't know it then, but in the minds of my employees, a new legend had been born, to defend his director, CEO, Snap's rival's arm. My corporate persona had gained a new, powerful trait, fiercely protective. The fallout from the Ryan Vance incident came swiftly. His family's company began sabotaging Greenfield Hope in small, petty ways, filing frivolous noise complaints about our construction site, bribing our suppliers to delay shipments. They were minor annoyances, but they were adding up. Ava was stressed, working late almost every night trying to solve the logistical nightmares. I felt guilty. This was my fault. I could talk to my father, I suggested. With his influence, crushing the Vance family's company would be easy. No, Ava refused instantly. This is our company's problem. If we can't handle a little trouble, how will we ever do anything great? Her eyes shone with a fierce, competitive light. Besides, she added, glancing at me, I'm sure you already have a plan, Mr. Stone. There was again. She had elevated me to the status of a strategic mastermind in her mind. What plan could I possibly have? My core competencies were PowerPoint and taking the blame for my old boss's mistakes. But I couldn't let her down. I had the executive team pull every file they could find on the Vance Corporation. We spent days analyzing their business. We found a weakness. The company had expanded too aggressively and was over-leveraged. They were pouring all their remaining capital into a bid for a massive new development project in the South District. A new, terrifyingly ambitious plan formed in my mind. You want to play games? Fine. Let's play for real. I went straight to my father. Dad, I want to bid on the South District project. He was drinking tea and did a spit take. What? Are you crazy? The investment is enormous. The risk is huge. Our own board already passed on it. Dad, trust me, I said, with a confidence I absolutely did not feel. I know what I'm doing. I handed him the analysis report my team and I had put together. In reality, they had done most of the work. I had just used some of my old corporate drone skills to point them in the right direction, suggesting they analyze our rivals' weaknesses in cash flow, debt-to-equity ratio, and market exposure. My father took the report, skeptical. He read, his brow furrowing deeper and deeper. Finally, he slammed it down on his desk and stared at me. This was all you. Yes, I lied through my teeth. He looked at me with a mixture of shock and ecstatic pride, the same look my dad from my previous life gave me when I got a good report card. Excellent. That's my son. Bold, brilliant. I support you. Whatever you need, just ask. Me. I was just trying to teach a bully a lesson and maybe waste a spectacular amount of money in the process. How did this turn into a father-son bonding moment over corporate warfare? The plan, once again, was going off the rails. The rest was simple. Stone Industries officially announced its bid for the South District project. The news sent the Vance Corporation into a panic. They thought the project was a sure thing. Now, they were facing a rival with infinitely deeper pockets. At the bid presentation, Ryan Vance looked at me with murder in his eyes. You're really going to do this, Stone? You started it. I shrugged. Fine, he snarled, and then announced a bid that was clearly far beyond his company's means. He was bluffing, betting I wouldn't dare to go that high. He bet wrong. It wasn't my money. I didn't care. I calmly raised his bid by another $100 million. The room gasped. The color drained from Ryan's face. He knew he was beaten. Not only had he lost the project, but he had pushed his company to the brink for nothing. We won the project. The next day, the Vance Corporation's stock plummeted, their creditors called in their loans, and they filed for bankruptcy. And I, Caleb Stone, became a legend. Again, this time, my title evolved from investment god to corporate raider. The story on the street was that I had, in a fit of romantic fury, destroyed an entire real estate empire to defend the honor of a female employee. I was a real-life romance novel hero. When I walked through the office, the female employees looked at me with literal stars in their eyes. Only Ava looked at me differently. Her expression was more complicated than ever, impossible to read. She came into my office later that day and wordlessly made me a cup of tea. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For everything you did for me. She looked at me, her eyes shining. But I don't want you to become a ruthless person because of me. I blinked. Ruthless? I would just try to go broke. Looking at her worried face, I realized my persona had drifted from mysterious tycoon into the dangerous territory of cold-blooded predator. This wouldn't do. I had to fix this. To repair my image in Ava's eyes, I made a decision. I would make Greenfield Hope a true, non-profit public park. When I announced this at the next board meeting, everyone looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Mr. Stone, we can't do that. The initial investment was massive. How will we explain a zero-profit project to the shareholders? He's right, sir. We could easily turn this into a premium, members-only country club. The membership fees alone would be a 9-figure annual revenue stream. Sir, please reconsider. The head of the team my father had sent me was practically begging. I held up a hand for silence. I understand your concerns, I said. I will handle the financials. I want one result. In 5 years, I want this wasteland to be the most beautiful public green space in the city. A place where any citizen can come to walk, to breathe, to relax for free. As for the shareholders, I smiled. I'll talk to my father. The room was silent. Everyone stared at me as if I were some kind of saint. This wasn't just a rich kid being whimsical. In their eyes, this was a display of philanthropy that transcended business. Only Ava, sitting in the corner, kept her head down, but I could see her hands, resting on the table, were trembling. She caught up with me after the meeting. Were you serious in there? She asked, her voice uncertain. Completely, I said. The park's design is all yours now. Don't worry about the budget. I only want the best. She stared at me for a long time, and then she smiled. It was the first time I'd ever seen her truly smile. Not a smirk, not a cynical grin, but a real smile, as warm as the spring sun. Her eyes curved into crescents, and 2 faint dimples appeared on her cheeks. Okay, she said, I won't let you down. In that moment, I felt something shift inside my chest. A soft, gentle impact. I was starting to understand why the old Caleb would do so many stupid things for a girl. Because when she smiles at you like that, you feel like you would do anything for her. Even burn an empire to the ground. Or in my case, build a park. Greenfield Hope progressed smoothly under our joint. Well, mostly Ava's leadership. The soil was successfully restored, and the first wave of trees and flowers were planted. The site transformed daily, humming with life. My relationship with Ava changed, too. We were no longer just boss and employee. We were more like partners. We'd eat lunch together in the site's makeshift cafeteria, argue over blueprints late into the night, and celebrate small victories. I discovered that she wasn't always cold. She'd get genuinely excited seeing a new sprout push through the reclaimed soil. She'd build a small shelter for a stray cat that wandered onto the site. She was kind and gentle, but with a resilience that was truly astonishing. And somewhere along the way, I started to feel a sense of purpose. The panic, the desperate need to escape this world began to fade. I started to think that maybe using my power, money, to do something good, to protect someone I cared about, wasn't such a bad life after all. I even started learning how to actually run a company, how to read financial reports. Most of it still went over my head, but Ava would patiently teach me. See, you can't calculate the debt-to-equity ratio like that. She'd lean closer, pointing at the spreadsheet, her warm breath tickling my ear. She smelled faintly of fresh-cut grass. My face grew hot. Oh, right, got it, I'd say, quickly leaning back. She would look at me, confused for a second, then continue her explanation. I'd watch the way the light caught her long eyelashes, the intense focus on her face. My heart would start doing that stupid, frantic thumping thing again. I was in trouble. Caleb Stone, the man whose only goal was to go broke and return to a simple life, was, I think, falling in love. 2 years later, Greenfield Hope officially opened to the public. The opening day was a massive event. People were stunned by the beauty of the park. The former toxic wasteland was now a paradise of lush trees, blooming flowers, and crystal-clear lakes. No one remembered how I'd been ridiculed for buying the land. Now, they only praised my vision and generosity. My father, Harrison Stone, was there. He put a hand on my shoulder, his voice thick with emotion. You've grown up, son. This park is the greatest gift you could have given the city. And it's the greatest gift you could have given me. I just smiled and looked out at the crowd, searching for one person. Ava was standing by the lake, talking to a young man in a wheelchair. It had to be her brother, Jake. He looked healthy, a bright smile on his face. The sun shone down on them, creating a picture-perfect moment. I walked over. Ava saw me and smiled. Mr. Stone. Call me Caleb, I said. She blushed slightly and nodded. Caleb, sis, is this the Mr. Stone you're always talking about? Jake asked, looking up at me with curiosity. Yeah, Ava replied. Wow, you're amazing. This park is incredible. And thank you for helping me get better, Jake said, his eyes wide with hero worship. I felt my cheeks heat up. It was all your sister's work, really. The three of us walked along the lake as the sun began to set, casting our shadows long on the path. I looked at Ava beside me and realized that being sent to this world might not have been a curse after all. I hadn't managed to go broke, and I hadn't returned to my old life. But maybe I had found something more important. A purpose, someone to care for, and a new beginning. Ava, I said, stopping. I took a breath, summoning my courage. The park is finished. Your goal is accomplished. What? What are you going to do now? She stopped too, her eyes shining in the sunset. Well, I haven't paid off my shares yet, she said, a playful smile on her lips. So I guess you're stuck with me for a long time, boss. I laughed. Good, I said. Let's see where this goes, then. Together. She didn't say anything, but her smile widened, and she nodded, a silent, powerful promise. I thought this was it. The perfect ending. I might never go back, but Caleb Stone was going to live, really live in this world. Epilogue. Just when I thought the story was settling into a nice, happy ending, Arthur, the butler, found me, a strange look on his face. Sir, Mr. Stone, he said, handing me a sealed manila envelope. Your father asked me to give this to you. He said that whatever you decide, he will support you. Confused, I opened it. Inside was a DNA analysis report. The conclusion, a single line of text, hit me like a lightning bolt. The genetic markers indicate that Harrison Stone is excluded as the biological father of Caleb Stone. Tucked behind the report was a handwritten letter from my father. Caleb, by the time you read this, you will have become a man I am immensely proud of. I am sorry to tell you the truth this way. More than 20 years ago, a mistake was made at the hospital, and our lives were changed forever. I have found my biological son. He has had a difficult life, and you were meant to have a normal, quiet, loving home. The choice is yours now, whether you want to stay, to continue as the heir to Stone Industries, or find your real parents. I will respect your decision. This card has $100 million in it. Consider it compensation for the life you should have had. I stood there in the setting sun, holding the report and the thin plastic card, my mind completely blank. So, I wasn't a rich kid after all. I was just an imposter who had been living someone else's life for 2 decades. What did that make my whole go broke scheme? An elaborate, multi-year-long act of cosmic irony? I looked across the lawn at Ava, who was laughing with her brother. Then I looked back down at the piece of paper that had just erased my identity. A new, far more difficult choice lay before me. Who was I? And where in the world was I supposed to go from here? And